Hello dear viewers, welcome to today's English class of BD24 online school. This is Shahid Islam once again with you. We have already discussed present tense, past tense and future tense, including present simple, past simple, future simple, present continuous, past continuous, future continuous, present perfect, past perfect and future perfect. In our last class, we are going to discuss present perfect continuous, past perfect continuous and future perfect continuous. Though we use these tenses pretty little in our conversation, yet as we have known simple, perfect and continuous, let's know perfect continuous as well. So let's begin with present perfect continuous tense. Let me give you the structure of affirmative sentence of present perfect continuous. We start affirmative sentences with a subject, and immediately after the subject we use auxiliary verb have or has plus been. Subject have or has plus been. After that we use V4, which is the present participle form of a verb, and finally an object. So according to the structure, let me give you an example. First of all, subject I, then have been. I have been, V4, writing, object, poems. So the sentence is I have been writing poems. Let's move on to the affirmative sentence of past perfect continuous tense. We start with a subject, then had been, not have or has, subject, then had been, then V4, present participle form of a verb, and finally an object. So let me give you an example. Subject I, then had been. I had been, V4, writing, an object, poems. I had been writing poems. And finally, the affirmative sentence of future perfect continuous tense. First of all, subject, then will have been. Not have or has, not had, rather will have been, then V4, present participle form of a verb, and finally an object. So let me give you an example. First of all, subject I, then will have been. I will have been, then V4, writing, an object, poems. I will have been writing poems. So let's see the examples once again. Affirmative sentence of present perfect continuous. I have been. I have been writing poems. Affirmative sentence of past perfect continuous. I had been, not have, I had been. And the affirmative sentence of future perfect continuous. I will have been. So you see the minor changes. In affirmative sentence of present perfect continuous, have. In affirmative sentence of past perfect continuous, had. And affirmative sentence of future perfect continuous, will have. So these are the minor changes in affirmative sentence of these three perfect continuous tenses. So let's go to the negative sentence of present perfect continuous. As usual, we start our negative sentence with a subject. After the subject, as it is present perfect, we put auxiliary verb have or has. After subject, have or has, then a negative word not. Subject have or has, then not, then been, plus V4, verb plus ing, and finally an object. So the example here is subject she has not. She has not, then been, then verb plus ing, joining. She has not been joining, then object, the classes. She has not been joining the classes. Let's move on. Negative sentence of past perfect continuous. Similarly, at the beginning, subject, then had been, not have or has. Had been, subject plus had plus not. Negative word, then been, then V4, verb plus ing, and finally an object. So the example is she, subject, then had not been. She had not been V4 verb plus ing, joining. She had not been joining the classes. And finally, negative sentence of future perfect continuous tense. First of all, subject, then will not have. After subject, will not have, then been. Will not have been, then V4, and finally an object. So let me give you an example. She, which is the subject here, then will not have been. She will not have been, then V4. Joining. She will not have been joining, then object, the classes. She will not have been joining the classes. So let's see the examples once again. In negative sentence of present perfect continuous, she has not been joining the classes. In the negative sentences of past perfect continuous, she had not been joining the classes, and in negative sentence of future perfect continuous, she will not have been joining classes. So you easily can see that there are some changes in auxiliary verbs only: has, had, and will. If you can use auxiliary verbs properly, you can use negative sentences as well. And the last one is interrogative sentence. So let's see present perfect continuous as interrogative sentence. We start interrogative sentence with auxiliary verb as it is present perfect, either have or has. Either have or has. After this auxiliary verb, we put the subject, and after the subject, been. Auxiliary verb, subject, been, and then V4, present participle form of a verb, and finally an object. So let me give you the examples. First of all, auxiliary verb, have, then subject, you. Have you, then been. Have you been, then V4, following. Have you been following, object, my lectures. Have you been following my lectures? And then interrogative sentence of past perfect continuous tense. First of all, had, not have, not has, had plus subject plus been plus V4, verb plus ing, and finally object. So the example will be, had you been following my lectures? And last but not the least, interrogative sentence of future perfect continuous. The structure is at first auxiliary verb will, immediately a subject, then have been plus a V4, which is the present participle form of a verb, and finally an object. So let me show you the example. Will, the first auxiliary verb, then subject, you. Will you have been? Will you have been? Then verb plus ing, following, then object, my lectures. So the example is, will you have been following my lectures? So dear viewers, one more time, let me show you the examples. The interrogative sentence of present perfect continuous starts with an auxiliary verb, have. The interrogative sentence of past perfect continuous starts with had, and finally the interrogative sentence of future perfect continuous starts with will. The remaining things are the same. Subject being V4, object, subject being V4, object, subject have been V4, object. So the only changes is in auxiliary verbs. Have in present perfect continuous, had in past perfect continuous, and will in future perfect continuous tense. So dear viewers, in our session of tense, we first discussed tense elaborately, and then we discussed simple, continuous, perfect and perfect continuous of present, past and future. I believe that if you follow the class very closely and the instructions and the examples and structures, everything very carefully, you'll be able to use these structures to make conversation or whatever your purpose is. So I hope that you'll follow the lectures, the instructions carefully, and you will be a very good speaker, a very good user of English language. And once again, thank you so much for staying with me. Allah Hafiz.